My name is Eleanor Henderson. I'm 68 years old, and I've lived long enough to understand that life rarely prepares you for the things that hurt the most. I've survived storms, sickness, heartbreak, and years of raising a child alone. But nothing, and I mean nothing, cut me deeper than what happened with my son Mark. Even now, when I close my eyes, I still see it like a movie that won't stop playing. It all started with something simple. Something painful, something every older person goes through sooner or later. Letting go of the home you built your life in. When you get old, you don't lose everything all at once. You lose small things little by little. Your strength, your speed, your memory, your place in the world. For me, the first big loss was my house. I lived in that home for 47 years. It was a simple 2-story white house with blue shutters and a magnolia tree in the front yard that grew taller than the telephone lines. It didn't look like much to strangers. But to me, it was everything. It was where Mark took his first wobbly steps, where he ate pancakes at the tiny kitchen table, where he cried when his father walked out and never came back. Every corner, every wall, every creaky floorboard carried a memory. But the truth is, the house wasn't meant for an old woman living alone. The stairs hurt my knees, the leaks in the roof kept getting worse. The winters were colder, and the rooms felt bigger and emptier every year. One quiet morning, I stood on the porch with my coffee and whispered to myself, "Ellie, it's time," I cried after saying it. But I meant it. A young couple from Ohio bought it. They had 2 little girls who ran barefoot across the yard during the showing. Their laughter reminded me of Mark when he was small, back when he still looked at me like I hung the moon. The final sale came through at $260,000. And when the realtor placed that thick envelope in my hand, I felt the weight of my entire life sitting right there in paper and ink. It wasn't money, not to me. It was years of sacrifice, hours of overtime, nights of going without so Mark could have more. Dreams I gave up and never said out loud. I held that envelope against my chest and whispered, "This will carry me through the rest of my life." I had no idea how wrong I was. I wanted to share my good news first with Mark and his wife Brittany. So I cooked a warm, simple dinner, Mark's favorite from childhood, chicken noodle soup and fresh cornbread. When they arrived, I had the envelope sitting on the table. It looked almost sacred to me. "Mom," Mark said, raising his eyebrows, "is that the money?" I nodded, smiling. "Yes, honey. They paid in full today." Brittany leaned forward like a cat watching a mouse. "And how much did you get?" she asked. She tried to sound casual, but she couldn't hide the excitement in her voice. I told them. $280,000 after fees. Mark let out a low whistle. Brittany's eyes actually sparkled. I started explaining my plan. I'm going to keep half for my rent, groceries, and medical bills. The rest I want to put into small accounts for. But before I could even finish the sentence, Mark reached across the table and snatched the envelope. He didn't ask. He didn't wait. He didn't even blink. He grabbed it like it belonged to him. "Mom, no," he said sharply. "You don't need this much money. You can't handle finances at your age. Brittany and I already talked about this." My chest squeezed. "You talked about my money?" I whispered. Mark nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. "We want to buy a condo, a nice one. This money will secure it." I stared at him, stunned. "I earned that money, Mark. I need it." Brittany cut me off. "You have Social Security. You're fine." And just like that, they got up, envelope in hand, walking out of my house with everything I had left. I didn't beg, I didn't scream, but something inside me broke in a quiet but powerful way. And a voice inside me whispered, "Follow him, Eleanor. Something about this isn't right." Sleep refused to come that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling a pain I couldn't put into words. I kept replaying that moment, Mark grabbing the envelope like it was his birthright, like I owed it to him. Around 3 in the morning, I sat up in bed with a pounding heart. Something wasn't right. Mark didn't visit often. He didn't check on me much. He never cared about condos before. So why did he suddenly need my entire life savings? I whispered into the dark. Lord, please help me understand. And then I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I dressed quietly. Jeans. A cardigan. Comfortable shoes. I didn't want to stand out. I drove to Mark's neighborhood and parked a few houses down. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I felt ridiculous, like a secret agent grandma. But I stayed. After 15 minutes, Mark stepped out of the house. And oh, the sight of him made my heart drop. He didn't look confident. He didn't look happy about the money. He looked scared. He kept checking his phone, looking over his shoulder, muttering to himself. He climbed into his old silver Honda and drove off fast. I waited a moment, then followed. He didn't drive to any nice condos or any real estate office. He headed straight into one of the roughest parts of the city. My breath caught. He turned into a back alley behind an old bar with a flickering neon sign. And that's when I saw him. A tall, muscular man with tattoos covering both arms. He stood waiting beside a dumpster, arms crossed, expression cold as stone. Mark got out of the car holding the envelope against his chest like it was burning his hands. My stomach twisted. He wasn't buying a condo, he was paying someone. For something. I cracked my window just enough to hear. Please, Mark whispered. This is everything I have, just give me more time. The tattooed man snatched the envelope away. For your sake, he growled, this better be all of it. My heart dropped into my stomach. I opened my door. My legs shook, but I walked toward them. Mark, I said softly, what are you doing here? Mark spun around, eyes wide. Mom? What? How did you? The tattooed man glared at me. And who the hell are you? I'm his mother, I said firmly. And that money you're holding? That's my entire life savings, he smirked. That sounds like a you problem. I stepped closer. I don't know where the courage came from. Maybe from 50 years of being a mother. You will not take another dollar from my son, I said. And you certainly will not take the money I worked my whole life for. He stared at me. Then, to my shock, he pushed the envelope back into Mark's chest. You've got 1 week, he growled, 1 week to bring the rest, or you'll be sorry you were ever born. He walked away, and Mark collapsed to the curb, shaking, sobbing. Mom, he choked. I'm so sorry, I didn't know what else to do. I sat beside him and wrapped my arms around him. My heart ached for the little boy I once raised, but I had no idea this was only the beginning. Mark cried in that alley like a child. Not like a grown man, not like a husband, not like someone who had everything under control. He cried like the little boy who once ran to me after a scraped knee, begging me to, "Make it better, Mommy!" And even though he was a grown man sitting in the dirt, trembling, all I wanted to do was make it better again. I rubbed his back gently. His body shook with fear and shame. Mom, he whispered, voice cracked and broken. You shouldn't have come. It's not safe. I'm your mother, I said softly. I go where you go. Now tell me the truth. What have you done? Mark covered his face with both hands. I messed up. I messed up so bad, Mom. Then he finally looked at me, eyes red, tears streaking his cheeks. I gambled. My heart tightened, but I stayed calm. He continued. I thought I could win enough to solve our problems. I thought I could pay off the people I owed. I thought I could fix everything before you ever found out. I swallowed hard. How much do you owe, Mark? He shook his head helplessly. I don't even know anymore. And that scared me more than anything else. I took a deep breath. Who is that man? Mark's voice dropped to a whisper. His name is Victor. He's connected, you know, to people you don't want to owe money to. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. The kind of people you don't cross. The kind of people you don't bargain with. The kind who don't care if you have a family, a mother, a future. I put my hand under his chin, lifting his face toward mine. Listen to me, I said quietly. We are going to get through this. But you cannot keep hiding things from me. Mark nodded, wiping his eyes. But something in my gut whispered, he still wasn't telling me everything. And I didn't know then, but that instinct was right. Dead right. I took Mark home. We barely spoke during the drive. He stared out the window, lost in some secret pain. But the next morning, something strange happened. I drove to check on Mark again. Yes, I know, I sound like a helicopter mom, but when your child is tied to dangerous people, you don't just sit at home and knit sweaters. Mark came out of his house around 9 a.m. But he wasn't alone. A woman followed him out. She moved differently than Brittany, nervous, tense, looking over her shoulder like she was expecting someone to jump out at any moment. She had long, dark hair, tied back loosely. A worn-out purse hung from her shoulder, and in her hands she held a thick folder stuffed with papers. Mark didn't even lock the door behind him. He looked stressed, like the world was closing in on him. They both climbed into his car and drove off, and my instincts screamed, "Follow them!" So I did. They didn't go to the casino. They didn't go to Brittany's workplace. They didn't go anywhere normal. Mark drove toward the outskirts of town, past farms, past empty bus stops, past neighborhoods I'd never been in. Then they turned down a narrow road lined with overgrown trees. At the end of the road sat an old building surrounded by a rusty fence. A faded wooden sign read, Cedar Pines Recovery Center, Private Property Recovery Center. My chest tightened. Was Mark addicted to something? Was he in withdrawal? Was this woman here to help him? They parked and went inside quickly, almost as if they didn't want to be seen. I parked a little farther down, behind some pine trees. I sat there for several minutes, torn between fear and curiosity. But finally, my need to protect my son won. I walked toward the building slowly, staying close to the trees. Through a half-open window I saw them. Mark was pacing inside a small office. The woman stood with her arms crossed, tapping her foot anxiously. Then she opened her folder. And my breath stopped. Inside were documents, lots of them. Court letters, eviction notices, legal papers with big red stamps on the top. She pushed the folder toward Mark and he flipped through the pages. I leaned in closer. That's when I caught a glimpse of a page. Emergency court eviction. File 22 to 498B. My stomach dropped. Why would Mark need eviction papers? What did he have to do with legal notices? And who was this woman? Before I could process any of it, a large hand grabbed my shoulder. I gasped and spun around. A tall Cedar Pines employee stood behind me, arms crossed, expression firm. "Ma'am," he said, "you can't be here. This is private property." I tried to steady my voice. "My son," I whispered. "My son is inside, please. I just want to make sure he's okay." His expression softened for a split second, then hardened again. "Name?" he asked. "Mark. Mark Henderson." The man's face changed. Not in a pleasant way. Not in a kind way. In a worried way. A this is trouble kind of way. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "You need to go. Right now." Before I could ask anything else, he started walking me to the parking lot. His eyes kept darting toward the building behind us. And I realized he wasn't protecting their privacy. He was protecting himself. Protecting the center. Protecting something going on inside. Something connected to my son. I didn't go home. I sat in my car a few yards down the road, heart pounding hard enough to shake my chest. About 30 minutes later, a younger woman in blue scrubs walked out of the building holding a clipboard. She looked tired. Exhausted, really, but not tense like the man before her. This was my chance. I stepped out of my car and approached her gently. "Excuse me," I said softly. "I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're busy, but I think my son is inside, and I'm really worried." She turned, startled. I'm not supposed to." "I'm his mother," I said, my voice trembling. I just need to know if he's safe." Something in my face must have reached her. Mother to mother, woman to woman. She understood fear. She lowered her voice. "Okay," she whispered, "but you didn't hear this from me." I nodded quickly. "Your son. He's not a patient here." My heart thudded. "He isn't?" I repeated. "No," she looked around nervously. "He's meeting someone." "And the woman he came with?" "She's not staff. She's not authorized to be in the files room." My breath hitched. "Files room?" I asked. The woman nodded. "Yes. We store documents for clients, legal paperwork, eviction notices, protective custody documents, things like that. And she's been coming here for weeks, trying to get access to those files." My skin went cold. "What does she want with eviction files?" The woman shook her head. "I don't know, but the staff has complained about her before. She lies about who she's picking up documents for. She gives different names every time. Different names. Eviction papers." Mark pacing like he's desperate. Something dark clicked into place. The woman took a step back, suddenly tense. I have to go. Someone's coming." She hurried inside. I stood there frozen, the wind brushing through my sweater, my mind racing. Mark wasn't gambling with cards anymore. He was gambling with people's homes, people's lives, through the courts. He was tied to something bigger, something illegal, something dangerous. And he wasn't alone. That woman, whoever she was pulling the strings. 2 hours passed before Mark and the woman finally came out of Cedar Pines. They looked tense, marks on their faces, stress, anger, fear. They got into the car and drove off fast. I followed from a safe distance. They went through the city, past familiar streets, then deeper into industrial areas I had never seen. Finally, they turned into an abandoned warehouse parking lot. Everything in me screamed to turn around, but a mother's fear is stronger than her self-preservation. I crept closer, hiding behind a rusty fence. Mark rolled down his window only halfway. A man stepped out of the shadows. Victor. The tattooed man from before. My blood ran cold. He leaned into Mark's window like a wolf cornering its prey. "What took you so damn long?" Victor growled. The woman, her voice sharp and impatient, leaned over Mark. "We're working on it," she snapped. "We have a plan." Victor's eyes narrowed. "You better, because if I don't get the rest of my money, both of you are dead. You understand?" Dead. The word froze my blood. Mark stuttered. "I don't have more. I don't have anything left." Victor slammed his fist on the roof of the car. "You think I care? You should have thought of that before you screwed up my business." My business? The words echoed in my head. What business? What had my son gotten himself into? Victor reached inside the car, grabbed the folder the woman was holding, and flipped through the papers. He scoffed. "You're messing with court records now? You're crazier than I thought." The woman's voice trembled for the first time. "We're fixing it, Victor. Trust me." He leaned in close. "No, you fix nothing. You owe me. And you have 48 hours. He threw the folder back into the car and walked off, leaving Mark and that woman trembling, leaving me shaking so hard I had to grab the fence to keep from falling, leaving behind a truth I didn't want to face. My son wasn't just in trouble. He was drowning, and I had no idea how to save him. I stayed crouched behind that rusted fence until Victor disappeared inside the warehouse. My breathing was shaky. My legs felt weak. My mind couldn't hold still. Mark was in danger. Real danger. The kind people don't walk away from. The moment their car pulled out of the lot, I hurried back to mine and followed at a distance. They drove fast. Too fast. Switching lanes. Checking mirrors, like they were trying to shake someone off their tail. Except they didn't know their tail was their mother. After 20 minutes of tense, silent driving, they turned into a deserted parking lot next to an old motel. A cheap-looking place with flickering lights and peeling paint. The kind of place where stories end badly. They got out of the car, walked straight into a room, and slammed the door behind them. I parked a few lots down, and I waited. For hours. I sat in my car watching that motel door, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't know what scared me more, what they were planning, or how much danger my son was truly in. Around 5 a.m., when the sky was turning pale blue, the motel door opened. Mark came out first. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes dark and hollow. Then the woman followed him, still carrying that thick folder, still moving fast and nervous. She lit a cigarette and exhaled sharply, like stress lived deep in her bones. Mark rubbed his forehead. She grabbed his arm and whispered something urgent. He nodded. They rushed into the car and drove off, and once again, I followed. This time, they took back roads. The city was still waking up. Most streets were empty. Only a few delivery trucks and early commuters passed by. Mark was driving too fast, too reckless. He was scared. He was desperate. I could feel it from my car. He tossed an empty energy drink can out the window. He only did that when he was lying or panicking. He's done it since he was a kid. A small habit, but a loud warning. They finally turned into a narrow gravel road lined with tall weeds. At the end stood another old, quiet building. The sign read, Pine Creek Storage and Rentals, a storage facility. The woman jumped out of the car and marched toward one of the units. Mark followed her. I stayed back, but close enough to hear bits of their conversation. She unlocked the unit's door and threw the folder onto a metal table inside. Papers spilled everywhere. Mark grabbed a handful. "What is all this?" he asked, voice shaking. She snapped. "These are the cases we still need to fix." "Fix?" Mark echoed. "We're not fixing anything. We're digging deeper." She didn't deny it. She just kept shuffling through the papers like she was desperately searching for something. "You don't understand," she hissed. "If we don't fix these files, Victor will kill us. Not scare us, kill us." Mark backed away. "I can't keep doing this. I can't steal from my mother again. I won't." My heart broke, even from a distance. She spun around, eyes wild. "If you don't help me," she said, "we're both dead. You think you can walk away? You think Victor will just forget you? He won't." Mark's voice cracked. "I shouldn't have trusted you." She froze. For a moment she looked hurt, almost like she cared. Almost. But then her face hardened. "You don't get to blame me," she whispered. "You chose to gamble. You chose to owe money. I gave you a way out." "No," Mark whispered. "You dragged me into this." Their voices echoed inside the cold metal walls. And I realized something important. This woman wasn't just trouble. She was dangerous. But not the loud, violent kind. She was the calculating kind. The kind who uses people like tools. The kind who drags others into her mess to save herself. And she had sunk her claws deep into my son. I couldn't sit outside that storage unit anymore. My heart wouldn't let me. I stepped out of my car and walked toward them. Slow, steady, every step filled with fear and love. Mark turned first. His face went pale. "Mom? What? Why? How did you find us?" I looked him in the eyes. A grown man, lost and scared, who still looked like the little boy who used to run around our yard with a toy fire truck. "Baby," I said softly, "because I'm your mother, and wherever you go, I go." The woman stepped forward, instantly defensive. "Who is this?" she demanded. I met her eyes. "I'm the person who's done more for him than anyone in this world," I said. "And I'm the person who wants nothing from him except to keep him alive." She rolled her eyes. "This is none of your business." I stepped closer. "It became my business when my son stole my life savings to pay off your mess." Her jaw clenched. Mark tried to get between us. "Mom, please." "No," I said gently but firmly. "This needs to stop. Right now. The woman let out a bitter laugh. You don't get it, she snapped. We don't have a choice. Victor is going to kill us if we don't fix this. He wants the rest of the money. And he wants it now. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I said the words I had been afraid to say out loud. He's not touching my son again. She scoffed. And what are you going to do? March up to Victor and ask him nicely? I didn't answer, because I already knew what I was going to do. I walked out of the storage unit without a word. Mark followed me, begging me to stop. But a mother's love becomes something else entirely when her child is in danger. It becomes fearless, it becomes reckless, it becomes stronger than fear itself. I got in my car and drove straight to the warehouse district. Mark kept calling, kept begging me to turn around. But I didn't. Because I knew something he didn't. Victor only had power as long as Mark was hiding. As long as we were scared. As long as we were running. If we stood up, if we pushed back, if we showed him we weren't afraid, I might be able to save my boy. I prayed the entire drive. Not fancy prayers, just simple ones. Please, keep my son alive. Please, give me strength. Please, guide me. When I pulled into the warehouse lot, Victor was outside smoking. He saw my car and frowned. I got out, holding my phone in my hand. His eyes narrowed. You again? I stopped 3 feet away, close enough to show courage, far enough not to provoke. You're going to leave my son alone, I said, and you're going to stop this, today. He laughed, a deep, cruel sound. You got a death wish, lady? No, I said, but I'm not afraid of you anymore. I raised my phone and pressed play. The recording from the alley played out loud. Every threat, every demand, every word he didn't want anyone else to hear. His smile faded. What are you doing? He growled. I'm protecting my son, I said. If anything happens to him or to me, this recording goes straight to the police. Victor stepped closer. You think that scares me? No, I said calmly. But the police do, the courts do. Losing your freedom does. Losing your operation does. And this recording proves everything. He froze. I could see the calculation in his eyes. The risk. The cost. The trouble this could bring him. Walk away, I whispered. Let my son go. He won't come after you. Just let him go. Silence. Then Victor flicked his cigarette, cursed under his breath, and said, Get out of here, both of you. I don't want to see either of you again. He walked back into the warehouse and slammed the door. It was over. Just like that. My legs nearly gave out from relief. Mark met me back at my house later that day. He cried again. Not the desperate, fearful cry from the alley. A different kind. A heavier kind. Mom, I don't deserve you, he whispered. Maybe not, I said softly, but you're my son, and that's enough. He returned some of the money. Not all, most of it was gone, but he promised to pay back every penny. And he did. Slowly. Month by month, year by year, the woman, whose name I later learned was Tara, was arrested 2 weeks after everything happened. Someone at the recovery center finally reported her. Too many lies, too many fake names, too many missing documents. She tried to run, but the law always catches up to people like her. Mark wasn't charged. He helped the investigation. He told the truth about the scam. He stood up for the first time in a long time. He's been rebuilding ever since, not just his life, but our relationship too. I still miss my house sometimes. I miss the magnolia tree, the creaky floors, the morning light that used to shine through the kitchen window. But I don't miss the loneliness, and I don't miss the fear, because that day taught me something I will never forget. A mother's love is brave. A mother's love is stubborn. A mother's love will walk into any darkness, even a warehouse full of danger, if that's what it takes to save her child. Mark made choices that hurt me. Choices that broke my heart. Choices that cost me years of savings. But he's still my son. And you don't give up on your child. Not when they're lost, not when they're scared, not when they've fallen into the wrong hands. You keep loving them, you keep fighting for them, you keep praying for them. Because sometimes love is the only thing strong enough to pull someone back from the edge. And that day, in that dark alley, in that storage unit, in that warehouse, love saved my son's life. And mine too.